Hello, my name is Damian Sweeney. I'm the Program Coordinator for Comprehensive School Counseling here at the Kentucky Department of Education, and I'm here today to talk to you about the School Data Summary from the American School Counseling Association. The School Data Summary is going to help you work towards an annual administrative conference. Right here, I've got a blank summary that you can see. And this is just a template that you can download straight from the American School Counseling Association website. This is going to help you decide what school data you want to focus on for your comprehensive school counseling program, right? This is a great first step, okay? So here's the blank one, but what we're going to focus on today is one that's already filled out, okay? So the first question you see here is identify who in the building can help you. Who is your data expert? Who can help you interpret the data, right? And I've done this session with multiple educational cooperatives, different principals, different school counselors across the state. So you'll see different responses from multiple people throughout Kentucky. All right. So people have said that they can go to their attendance clerk, their technology lead, their frisky, their nurse, their assistant principals, um, their math teachers, special education teachers, psychologists, principals, behavior coaches, building assessment coordinators or BACs, and then their interventionists. Next, identify the school improvement plan goals. All right, this is going to be super important for you. Okay, so as a school counselor, we have to tie all that we do to our school goals. So what I did was, for this example, I went to a school's comprehensive school improvement plan, their CSIP. Okay, you should be able to find all CSIPs on the school or district website. All right, so go to your school's CSIP. For this example, I looked at the school's needs assessment, and they said, in efforts to address these concerns, we are actively campaigning to increase student and teacher attendance. Right there, we already see something that a school counselor can work on, right? School counselors work within 3 domains. You work on the social emotional wellness domain, you work on the career counseling, you work on supporting students with career counseling, and then you also work with students through academic support. But within those things, in terms of being a data-driven school counselor, you look at ABC data, right? So you look at attendance data, you look at behavior data, and course passing data. Another way of saying course passing data is achievement data, right? So right here, right off the bat, we've got the A. In efforts to address these concerns, we are actively campaigning to increase student and teacher attendance. Well, we know that as school counselors, we can work on that. We can help with that. All right, next, the school says we've been working to create more robust PBIS systems and have mandated PASS as the social emotional curriculum. All right. Well, again, one of your domains is social emotional wellness. So you can help with this. You can help implement a social emotional curriculum. Next, we've begun tracking MTSS academic and behavior processes. Okay. Again, you do much of your work within tier 1 of an MTSS framework, right? So you do whole group lessons or whole group instruction. Next, within tier 2, you do individual school counseling or small group counseling. Within tier 3 of an MTSS framework, you do crisis counseling, right? So you make sure that you're doing indirect student services, you're coordinating and collaborating with community agencies to get that student the help that they need. Okay, so you can be a huge part of that MTSS process. All right, next they say we've recently developed an intervention plan to address novice reduction with an emphasis on encouraging student growth in math and reading. All right. Again, you can help with this. And you might say, well, I'm not a math teacher and I'm not a reading teacher. And you don't have to be. But again, one of the domains that a school counselor is going to focus on is that academic support. Okay. You can support students academically. You can make sure they're in the right classes. They have what they need. They're motivated and inspired to succeed. They understand the ramifications if they don't. They understand the opportunity if they do. You can have those conversations with your kiddos. All right, next they say we've recently hired a new mental health practitioner and ECE implementation coach. Well, if they've hired a new mental health practitioner as a school counselor, let's create protocols. When we see this behavior or we see these issues with students, who's going to do what? Okay, so you and that mental health practitioner should work hand in hand. And finally, the school says we are always looking for ways to improve school culture and climate and are using PBIS acknowledgement and reward systems to support student and staff growth. Okay, again, as a school counselor, you can focus on improving that school culture and climate. And when you do, right, when you do, focus on improving that school culture and climate, everything else is going to soar, right? So you can do this again through whole group lessons, through small group lessons, through individual counseling. But when you get more and more of your kiddos on track, when you get them motivated, inspired, they can see where they're going in terms of their future, post-secondary goals, etc., then you're going to improve your school culture and climate. Okay? So let's go back up to this. This said, number two said, identify the school improvement goals. Well, they said that they wanted to improve attendance for students and teachers. They wanted to create MTSS processes. They wanted to implement SEL. We said that we can help with by doing an integrated mental health protocol. They want to improve PBIS. They also want to improve the culture and climate. Literally every single one of these is something that as your comprehensive school counseling program can help with. All right. So number three, review available school data reports for previous years to identify trends. For example, is there a subgroup that historically underperforms on standardized achievement benchmarks? Next, is there a grade level that historically has the most absences? And finally, is there a subgroup that historically receives the majority of discipline referrals? Well, for this school, all right, we can look at that ABC stuff, that ABC data that we spoke about earlier. Okay, so in terms of attendance and chronic absenteeism, we found, I looked at the school report card. Okay, so you can go to your school report card. That's another data source that will give you information for this report. All right, I found that 97 students were chronically absent in this school, 38 female and 59 male. 70 were African American, 10 were two or more races, 85 were economically disadvantaged, and 15 were homeless. All right. So right now I'm automatically starting to think, okay, what subgroups within these chronically absent students can I work with? Right. I see that I've got 15 homeless students. Well, I can certainly collaborate with my frisky, potentially my mental health practitioner if I have one. I can find resources. I can work on different things to help these students, right? And then 85 economically disadvantaged, right? So low SES is often determining whether a student comes to school or not. Okay, I can put things in place to help with those things, with that chronic absenteeism. Next, total behavior events. We see that this school had 528 in 1 year, and almost 500 were African American, 9 were two or more races, and 21 were white. In terms of achievement, all students, there were 218 students tested. In terms of reading novice, 49%, reading apprentice, 23%, and proficient students and distinguished students combined made up for 28% of students tested. So what is working well according to your school data reports? We can certainly find different things that are working well, but and we certainly have to take the context that each school has in mind. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of things that are working well that maybe we don't necessarily see with the numbers. Okay, with these three indicators: achievement, attendance, or discipline. But we also need to look at highest possible areas of need according to your school data reports. And we know based on the numbers that we have a huge need for improving achievement. We have a huge need for improving attendance, and we have a huge need in improving discipline. All right, because 97 students that are chronically absent is way too high. 528 total behavior events is way too high, and only 28% of students received a proficient or distinguished score in reading. That's way too low. Okay, so we need to so we can really focus on any of those. Next, number four, compare your school's data with district and state data or other comparable data points. So in terms of proficiency, and this took into account reading and math, proficiency was 36.2% for the school. For the district, it was 61%, and for the state, it was 71%. All right. In terms of identifying what else you need to know, I wanted to get a better breakdown of who is exactly at this school. What are the demographics of the school, the racial makeup of the school. So in terms of all grades, there were 459 students. 327 of those students were African American, 3 were Asian, 11 were Hispanic or Latino, 1 was Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, 25 or 2 or more races, and 92 are white. I want to, it also, so what else do I need to know? I wanted to look closer at the behavior events, okay? Because again, when we see this 528, 528 um, total behavior events, that's a huge number. So we've got to see what's going on. So I wanted to look at this, and I looked again at the school report card, and I found that in total there were, let's see, let's just look at grade 1, right? In total for grade 1, for first grade, there were 141 events. Okay, we see that there are 141 events. Well, to make up 141 events, only 23 students made up for 141 events. Okay, so that's not as overwhelming as 141 different students having 141 different events. Okay, we can work with 23 students, right? We can pull together 23 students. We can do small group, we can do whole group, we can do individual stuff, we can work with families. We can do a lot to improve this data. All right, something else I wanted to know is I looked at the Panorama Impact Kentucky data, and we found that for Panorama, they asked 2 questions. How did teachers and staff respond to each question? So one of the questions was, how concerned are you about the emotional well-being of your colleagues as a result of their work? 13% said that only 13% responded favorably, which means that 87% of colleagues that took this survey, this Panorama Impact Kentucky survey, did not feel good about the emotional well-being of their colleagues. In terms of this next question, how concerned are you about your own emotional well-being as a result of your work? Well, only 23% felt good about it, which means that 77% of the people at the school that took the survey did not feel good about their own emotional well-being as a result of their work. Well, who can help with that? We can. School counselors can. All right, so you'll see here, the final question is, or the final statement, identify and prioritize data points you will address through your school counseling program. We know, we keep on hearing, put your mask on first, put your own mask on first. So we know that the first thing we need to think about is the emotional well-being of colleagues, right? And how can you address this through the school counseling program? We can do a ton of things to address the emotional well-being of our colleagues, right? We can do resilience lessons. We can connect colleagues to mental health providers. We can do asset framing or team building. We can provide information and opportunities to practice mindfulness. We can do check-in activities. We can offer communication loops to discuss how staff is doing, especially to ensure the well-being of new staff. We can offer workout activities with PE teachers, yoga classes. We can provide a monthly calendar with self-care activities. We can educate the principals and assistant principals as to ways they might support teachers. All right, so there's a ton of things that we can offer in our comprehensive school counseling program. Next, the emotional well-being of self. Right? Well, we can model mindfulness. We can use a book by John Gordon called The Energy Bus and have each PLC do a book study. We can do drumming sessions with staff. We can do self-care bingo. We can offer yoga again. We can do the self-care spot, right? We can do cool activities at the self-care spot. We can have staff members listen to my favorite podcast, which is called The Happiness Lab. We can send out a weekly email based on the book 180 Days of Self-Care for Busy Educators by Tina H. Bugren. And there's so much more that we can do. All right. For those 15 homeless students that were chronically absent, we can do small groups. We can partner with our FRISC. We can assess needs of students, identify resources, track down buses, and connect them with students and families. For the 528 behavior incidents, we can offer tier 1 instruction to whole stakeholder groups. right? And that doesn't just mean your students. That can also include teachers and caregivers to give them strategies. We can offer tier two small groups with students that have three or more incidents. We can offer needs assessments for extracurricular activities, begin leveraging coaches or other adults. We can create an adoptive student program, right? For number five, 496 behavior incidents are Black students. Okay, we can offer men of quality or sisters of quality. We can bring in mentors. We had a counselor say that she meets with them individually and tries to form good relationships with them. She checks in and gets really excited about her kiddos being there. Plus, I get parents involved too. You can offer home visits and showcase support systems in the school and district. You can also do student-led conferences. And finally, 49% reading novice. Well, as school counselors, we can model high quality instruction. We can facilitate ESS, summer school, academic support. We can motivate and inspire. We can work with caregivers. We can offer access to the library. And then Henry County offers in school academic support on Thursdays with special education teachers. Okay, so there's a ton that we can do. All right. So in a nutshell, that was the data summary report from the from the American School Counseling Association. Again, this is the first step towards creating a meeting with your principal to talk about your priorities for your comprehensive school counseling program and your goals. Thank you very much.